There are these situations, right? High stakes, things moving incredibly fast. Every single decision matters. Like, think about pilots before takeoff or surgeons before a big operation. How do people in those intense environments build structure, discipline?
Yeah, how do they stay ready when, chaos could be right around the corner?
Exactly.
Well, it often comes down to a process, a repeatable system, like a checklist, really.
The checklist.
Yeah, designed to kind of cut out the guesswork, minimize those errors when you're under pressure, make sure all the critical bases are covered no matter how fast things are moving.
Right. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, a deep dive into this really detailed checklist, specifically for preparing for, well, the high-stakes world of intraday trading.
And this isn't just some generic stuff. This came from you, our listener.
That's right. A comprehensive checklist, clearly refined over time, detailing a whole systematic approach.
So our mission today is basically to walk through this checklist, not just read it out, but really unpack it,
Find those essential nuggets of knowledge inside.
Exactly. What makes this thing tick? Why is it so powerful for prep, for risk management, for actually doing the trades when things get going?
Okay, let's unpack it then. The very first item, I found this fascinating. It's not about the market, not charts.
No.
It's called mental and physical readiness. Why start there? Why is getting yourself right the absolute first thing?
Well, what's really insightful, I think, is how the source insists on this. The trader's internal state. That's the foundation. Non-negotiable.
So calm, focused.
Calm, focused, free from distractions, emotional stress. It even says, pretty bluntly, do not trade if you're anxious or fatigued.
Right.
And it makes sense, right? Trading is all about quick decisions under pressure. If your head's foggy from stress or lack of sleep, well,
your decision-making is compromised from the get-go.
Right out the window. Exactly.
And get specific, too, on the physical side, sleep.
Yeah, it mentions verifying you got at least, 6-7 hours of quality sleep?
Quality sleep, yeah. And the environment, too. Silencing phones. Dedicated, quiet space. It's about controlling what you can control, I guess.
Totally. If you think about any high-performance task, this is fundamental. You need that mental clarity, that physical stamina. Trying to trade volatile markets without them. It's like, trying to do surgery with shaky hands. Setting yourself up for failure before you even start.
Okay, so internal environment sorted. Then the checklist moves outwards, right, to the market itself.
Yep. The next section, market analysis and preparation.
So what does he have us doing here?
This is where you start gathering your intel, understanding the battlefield, so to speak.
Okay.
The source says, check overnight global developments, what happened in Asia, Europe, review the economic calendar for any big news coming out.
Right. Scheduled releases.
Exactly. And look at the main global indices, S&P 500, NASDAQ, Nikkei, maybe some key Forex pairs like the euro dollar, just to get a feel for the overall mood.
Which raises a good point. Why does the global picture matter so much for short-term intraday moves?
Well, because it's all interconnected, isn't it? Something happening overseas can send ripples, waves of sentiment or volatility that hit your local market right at the open.
Got it. So identifying those potential waves, those triggers, is key. The checklist mentions looking for high-impact economic news, NFT, that's non-farm payrolls.
The U.S. jobs number.
Right. CPI for inflation, FOMC minutes for Fed policy hints, stuff that can really move the needle suddenly.
Definitely. Plus, just gauging that overall sentiment. Are we feeling bullish, bearish, kind of uncertain? You can use pre-market data for that, or indicators like the VIX.
The fear index.
That's the one. Measures expected volatility. Gives you a heads up.
And the source also says to look for specific sectors or stocks already showing action in the pre-market.
Yeah, using pre-market scans, maybe looking for high volume or big price gaps because of earnings or news. It helps you narrow your focus to where the action might actually be.
Finding those pockets of opportunity early.
Exactly, before the main event starts.
All right, so you understand the environment. Next up, planning. Always crucial, but what's specifically important for intraday trading prep here? This trading plan review section seems intense, especially the focus on limits.
Oh, absolutely. This is like the core of your risk control before you even think about putting on a trade.
Right.
The source is super clear, very firm. Define a maximum daily loss limit. It suggests, say, 1-2% of your trading capital.
And the key phrase.
No exceptions.
Yeah.
That's your hard stop for the day. Full stop.
Wow.
It also goes into confirming your position sizing, like how much you'll actually trade.
Based on you.
Based on your account size, how
Wow.
much you're willing to risk on any single trade, maybe 0.5%, 1% of capital, and how far away your planned stop loss is for that trade.
Makes sense. It also mentions deciding when to trade, like focusing on a specific session.
Yeah, like the US Open or the London Open, or maybe that busy overlap period. Depends on volatility, opportunity, and frankly, your own schedule and when you can be fully focused.
Right, you can't just dip in and out casually.
Not for this kind of trading. And this review also includes picking your actual strategies for the day.
Like breakout momentum.
Exactly. Breakout momentum, reversals, maybe scalping based on the market conditions you just analyzed. And crucially, reviewing your clear rules for entry, exit, and stop loss for those strategies.
Using technical patterns, indicators like RSI or VWAP, price action.
Whatever your method is, yeah. Having those rules crystal clear beforehand stops you from making impulsive calls in the heat of the moment.
Okay, plan reviewed, rules clear. But before you can execute, the tools need to work. What about the technical setup?
Right, the nuts and bolts. You got to verify everything's working smoothly.
For your platform.
Check the trading platform charts, okay? Order execution working. Data feeds reliable. Super important.
And internet?
Stable, fast internet is critical. The source even mentions a backup power source, like a UPS.
Good point. And chart set up correctly.
Yeah, confirm your preferred timeframes are loaded, maybe 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute for intraday. And any indicators you rely on, moving averages, Bollinger Bands, volume, make sure they're there and working.
There's a practical step in here, too. Build a watch list.
Yes, a focused watch list. The source suggests maybe just 5-10 instruments.
Stocks, Forex, futures.
Whatever you trade.
Yeah.
Things that look promising based on your scans or news. Trying to watch everything is a recipe for overwhelm. Focus is key.
Definitely. And finally,
Just confirming the basics. Account balance, margin availability, understanding your broker fees, know your capital, know your costs before you start.
okay, this next section feels, well, absolutely fundamental for sticking around in this game. Risk management. What's a checklist demand here, specifically before a trade?
It's all about defining your out before you get in, setting those stop loss levels for every single trade.
How do you set them?
The source suggests using technical level support, resistance, or maybe incorporating volatility with something like ATR, the average true range.
So stops adjust to market conditions.
Yeah, helps avoid getting stopped out by just noise if things are choppy. And here's a really critical point. It mandates ensuring every potential trade has a minimum reward to risk ratio.
Like 2 to 1 or higher?
At least 2 to 1, yeah. You're only looking for setups where the potential upside is at least double the potential downside if you get stopped out.
Makes sense.
Mm.
It also mentions limiting the number of trades.
Suggests maybe 3-5 trades per day, explicitly to stop you from overtrading, chasing losses or just getting chopped up by random market moves.
Discipline again.
Always. And this is vital, having an emergency plan, because things will go wrong sometimes.
Internet dies, platform crashes.
Or some sudden massive market event. Do you know how to call your broker directly? Can you exit manually if your main system fails? It makes you ask yourself, are you really prepared for when tech fails or the market goes haywire?
That's a sobering thought. Okay, next step. This is one that often separates the pros, I think. Preparing your trade journal.
Yes. Hugely important.
What does the source say should go in it? It seems quite detailed.
It is. And what's insightful is it's not just, entry price, exit price, P&L.
Right.
You log the reasons you took the trade, what criteria from your plan did it meet, and critically, your emotional state when you entered and exited.
The emotional state. That's fascinating, not just the technicals.
Exactly. It focuses on that psychological piece, understanding how feelings might have swayed your decisions, for better or worse.
And it connects back to the start of the day, too, suggesting you review the previous day's journal.
Yeah, briefly, before you start trading again. Helps you spot patterns, maybe recurring mistakes, or even things you're doing well consistently.
Turns it into a learning loop.
Precisely. Self-analysis based on your own data. That drives improvement.
Okay, so what actually triggers a potential trade? The checklist mentions identifying technical and fundamental catalysts.
Right. You're looking for specific things that are likely to make the price move.
Like earnings reports.
Could be earnings, other news events, or maybe a technical trigger like price breaking out of a clear range on the chart. And you also need to confirm that the things on your watch list are actually tradable. Good liquidity, can you get in and out easily?
Without moving the price against you too much.
Exactly. And tight spreads the difference between buy and sell prices to keep your costs down.
And checking volatility, too. Using ATR again, or pre-market range?
Yeah, just making sure there's actually enough movement expected. If something's just flatlining, probably not much opportunity there for quick intraday trades, right?
Need some wiggle room.
You need movement. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, almost there. Just before the bell, a quick final run-through, final pre-trade checks. What's on this last list?
Just confirming you're actually available to actively watch your trades. Intraday isn't set and forget.
Needs attention.
Definitely. Reviewing brokerage costs, commission, spread one last time, so it's fresh in your mind.
And there's a practical tip in here, too. Placing a small test order.
Yeah, like one share, if your platform allows.
Yeah.
Just concerns, everything's responding quickly, orders are going through fine. You don't want to find a lag during a real trade.
Good call. And the backup plan.
Just making sure it's ready to go.
Yes.
Secondary device logged in, broker's number handy, just in case your main setup pickups right when you need it.
Right. We started with the mind, and the checklist brings us back there. All point on emotional discipline. How does this get baked into the prep?
This is really where the commitment happens, you know? Committing beforehand to follow your plan, stick to it, without deviation.
Easier said than done, right?
Oh, incredibly hard. Especially if you hit a losing streak, the urge is to just ditch the plan, try to get it back. Or if you're on a winning streak, euphoria kicks in, maybe you take too much risk.
So the checklist forces you to confront that beforehand.
Yes. It makes you think. How will you commit to your plan when things get tough or exciting?
It explicitly says avoid revenge trading after hitting that daily loss limit.
Absolutely. Or just reacting emotionally to one bad trade. One trade doesn't define anything.
And it's just affirming confidence, like mentally rehearsing.
Yeah, rehearsing, sticking to the plan, trusting your analysis, trusting the process, no matter what happens on the next trade, reinforcing process over outcome.
Okay, the final step in the prep leads right into the action. Execute and monitor.
Yeah.
How does it suggest starting the session?
Cautiously. Maybe start with smaller position sizes early on, just to get a feel for the market's behavior today. Is it choppy, trending?
And the core instruction.
Stay disciplined. Only take trades that meet all the criteria you laid out in your plan. All of them.
No impulsive clicks based on FOMO.
Exactly. No fear of missing out, no reacting to random noise. Stick to your vetted setups.
And once you're in a trade,
Active monitoring. Watching price action, any breaking news, your indicators. But not to react emotionally.
to do what the plan says.
Precisely. To adjust stops or take profits exactly as your plan dictates. The plan guides everything, even the monitoring.
The prep flows right into execution.
That's the idea.
Now, the source included some important notes about this checklist itself.
Yeah.
What were those final insights?
Well, first, it's described as dynamic, not set in stone.
So it evolves.
Yeah, you should
Okay.
adjust it over time, based on market changes, based on what your trade journal tells you about your own performance as your strategies develop. It needs adaptability.
Okay, what else?
It stresses that following it religiously, really sticking to it, builds discipline, which it calls critical for long-term success. Consistency is key.
Makes sense? Discipline and consistency.
And finally, it mandates doing a post-trade review after the session is totally done,
Why?
to compare the trades you actually took against the checklist you prepared. Did you follow the plan? Where did you deviate? It gives you concrete data to refine things for the next day. Closes that learning loop we talked about.
Got it. So, wow, we've walked through this whole 10-step checklist.
Like the journey.
From the trader's internal state
Mm-hmm.
outwards to the market, building the plan with hard limits, getting the tech ready, hammering on risk management beforehand, learning from every trade, finding catalysts, final checks,
Yeah.
emotional discipline, and then executing by the plan.
Hmm.
This deep dive, using the material you provided, really shows that proper prep for something like intraday trading is so much more than just looking at a chart.
Oh, absolutely. It's physical, mental, analytical, technical, and just this intense focus on risk.
It really underscores that sustainable success, maybe in any dynamic field, isn't about predicting everything.
No, it's about diligent preparation, disciplined execution of your process, and constantly learning from what actually happens.
And that final note from the source,
Ugh.
saying this checklist was refined over decades to balance prep, risk, and execution. What does that tell us, maybe, about the sheer ongoing effort needed for discipline and adaptation in any complex system we face, whether it's markets or, well, anything else?
Yeah.
Something for you to think about.